Tonight, disaster planning for a summer of extreme weather. Man accused of murdering Gold Coast mum Kelly Wilkinson set free. How older Queenslanders can save thousands ahead of the aged care overhaul. A giant leap for space tourism as a civilian spacewalks into history. Surprise findings on how you can save 75% on pet care costs.
And live in Cowboys country, finals fever takes hold for Queensland's last hope to win the NRL Premiership.
This is 9 News Queensland with Andrew Lofthouse.
Good evening. A warning tonight. Queensland is in for more severe storms, heat waves and an increased risk of bushfires over the coming months. Disaster planning is underway now, so our state isn't caught off guard.
Grey skies and wild winds welcoming holidaymakers to the Gold Coast today. Gusts up to 63 kilometres an hour. And there's plenty more where that came from. According to the Weather Bureau, there's an increased chance of severe storms for southeast Queensland this spring.
We've already seen a couple of active storm days across southeast Queensland this year, and we expect to see more of that as we move through this season.
The high-risk weather forecast, part of a briefing by the National Emergency Management Agency from the Situation Room in Canberra, where disaster responses are activated. It shows we're likely to get above average rainfall across most of Queensland for the rest of the year. Coupled with warmer than average temperatures, especially at night. As for cyclones, we've experienced fewer in recent years, but those that have come, like Jasper last year.
The intensity of those systems has increased, so that's an important message.
The official cyclone outlook will reveal more in October.
This map shows in red the parts of the state most at risk of bushfires between now and November. It's mostly inland areas, but the Bureau warns all Queenslanders should prepare a fire action plan, no matter where they live.
Fires are very unpredictable. They're very geared around short-term weather patterns of wind and heat and temperature, and they can occur at any time.
The federal government has access to a record fleet of 160 aircraft this fire season, and they'll be used for other weather disasters too.
We'll have the capabilities available so that we can support floods, so that we can support tropical lows that you've heard.
Ebony Cavallaro, 9 News.
Straight to weather expert Luke Bradnam now. Luke, those destructive winds today caused some damage on the Bayside.
Yeah, that's right, Lofty. Have a look at these shots from Redland Bay this afternoon. A light pole coming down and causing some damage to these cars parked at a shopping centre. And not hard to see why. Those winds, as we just heard today, as strong as 65 k's an hour down here on the Gold Coast. But offshore, Double Island Point recording winds today at 95 kilometres an hour. That is the equivalent of a Category 1 cyclone. If you look at today's temperatures from around the southeast as a result of those strong southerlies, a cool day. These temperatures are deceiving. The feels like temp for most southeast Queenslanders today hovering around 15, 16 degrees. But the good news is the trough that's brought all the rain and storms over the past 24 hours has now cleared, Lofty. It means a great weekend on the way, but how's it shaping up for the rest of the school holidays? I'll have all those details, the full weather wrap coming up a little later.
Talk to you then. Thanks, Luke. A man accused of helping his co-worker kill his estranged wife has been acquitted of all charges. Bradley Bell was on trial for murder, and it took just 6 hours for the jury to deliver the verdict.
He spent 3 years behind bars, but today Bradley Bell is a free man.
It's been a long time, 3 years.
Yeah, a long time.
He was on trial for the murder of Kelly Wilkinson. The 27-year-old mother of 3 was killed in her Rundle backyard in 2021 by her estranged husband, Brian Earl Johnston. Johnston was sentenced to life in prison after pleading guilty to Kelly's murder. Bradley Bell, his co-worker, was accused of assisting him by driving him to her house and buying the jerry can of fuel used to burn her. The jury today found that Bradley Bell did not know that Johnston was intending to take her life.
What are you going to do with your first day of freedom?
Not sure.
The trial lasted 4 days and the jury made their decision within just 6 hours, finding Bradley Bell not guilty of Kelly Wilkinson's murder.
Is there anything you'd like to say to Miss Wilkinson's family?
No comment.
Kelly's sisters and father were in court, dropping their heads when the verdict was read out.
I'm honestly lost for words. The system has failed Kelly.
Meg Sides, 9 News.
A crime scene has been declared after a person was found dead in bushland at Ferny Grove. Police were notified just after 6 last night, with forensics spending most of the day combing the scene. Detectives are awaiting the result of a post-mortem in the coming days to determine the cause of death. They're investigating the possibility the person had been living in a tent in the area. The school holiday exodus has hit our roads. Traffic significantly under speed on the M1 between Brisbane and the Gold Coast this afternoon as holidaymakers head out of town. Police have launched a road safety blitz, urging drivers to be vigilant as our roads become more choked up. A looming shake-up of the aged care sector has many industry leaders concerned. They fear an already stretched system could face more pressure if there's a rush to get in before prices increase for some.
A once-in-a-generation overhaul of the aged care sector is underway, but some industry leaders are worried what it'll cost.
One thing's for sure, Australians will pay more for residential aged care in the future, whether they can afford it or not.
Lou Pascuzzi runs TLC Healthcare. He says residents are already money conscious and asking for reduced rates.
1 out of every 3 residents we're having to do that for now.
The sector is floundering, with close to 2/3 of aged care operators running at a loss, and a new 574-page federal plan seeks to fix it, in part by means testing Australians entering aged care, putting more of the cost burden on residents who can afford it.
This is an incredibly important piece of work.
National Seniors CEO Chris Grice says with millions of people heading for residential care in the next 2 decades, the sector needs to be strong and wait times need to come down.
Whatever can be done to make that happen, that's a good outcome.
For older Australians, though, there's a lot to think about fast. The clock is now ticking. Anyone receiving aged care before June 30 next year will be locked into the old and, for many, cheaper system. That leaves just over 9 months to consider options, because getting in before that deadline could mean saving thousands.
I think there'll be an influx now. Anyone that was sort of thinking about whether they'd enter residential aged care or whether they were ready to enter residential aged care, a significant number of people that will make that move now.
Chris Kohler, 9 News.
A monstrous blaze has broken out at a Mount Isa wrecking yard, destroying more than 100 vehicles, including tractors. A grass fire spread to the business yesterday evening, forcing homes in streets nearby to be evacuated. Fire crews extinguished the inferno in the early hours of this morning. Thankfully, nobody was injured. To police body cam now, showing the moment the dog squad pounces on a wanted man hiding in bushland. The 25-year-old accused of threatening a woman at a Rockhampton property before fleeing to the park nearby. His time on the run was short-lived, a clever canine sniffing him out within minutes.
Hey, mate, come up here now. Up here now, show us your hands.
He was arrested and charged with domestic violence offences. New details have been revealed about the abuse allegedly inflicted by 2 Channel 7 identities charged with a raft of offences. The pair were set to find out if they would face trial today, but in a shock twist, the prosecution derailed proceedings.
Arriving at court to hear the evidence against them.
How are you feeling about today?
The Queensland couple, who appeared nationally on a Channel 7 program, now have their identities hidden, protected by the courts. He is charged with 12 offences, including torture. She is accused of 46 offences. That includes 23 counts of common assault and 9 counts of rape. The court hearing new details about the allegations against the female accused from 3 witnesses who know the complainants. One described seeing the woman wave a knife in an intimidating manner close to the alleged victims on multiple occasions, claiming she also touched them inappropriately and repeatedly. Another witness told the court she is haunted by the woman's alleged behaviour. A third witness alleged the woman inappropriately touched a very young child with coconut oil and made a crude comment.
What do you make of the allegations by the witnesses today?
Just leave them in the car, guys. You can't leave them alone. It's hard enough for them.
The committal hearing was supposed to be completed today, but in a twist, the prosecution didn't have all of its evidence ready. The magistrate furious, describing it as a balls up.
Magistrate Stuart Shearer questioned, "You've had 18 months. At what point does it cross the line to becoming unfair to the defendant?"
Is the delay unfair?
The committal hearing will resume on November 18. Anna Rawlings, 9 News.
Banks and the big telcos have agreed to a major crackdown on scammers who use bogus texts, fake videos and false claims. But there are already signs the federal government may have trouble convincing social media companies to cooperate.
They're the scourge of modern life, invading your phone, your social media feed, sometimes your peace of mind. Scams pilfering $2.7 billion from Australian pockets every year.
Every one of those dollars has got a tragic story behind it.
The federal government to introduce tough new obligations on companies to combat shonks and shysters.
New obligations on all of them to ensure that they're preventing, disrupting, reporting and taking the fight up to scammers.
Under mandatory codes of conduct, banks will have to confirm the ID of payees before transferring funds. Telcos expected to step up protections against scam messages and calls, and social media platforms required to verify advertisers. Failure would risk fines of up to $50 million.
For the first time, real clarity about who is liable when a customer loses money.
Banks backing the new complaints mechanism, saying it'll benefit scam victims.
It is likely to see more reimbursement to customers.
Scams are a really big issue for Australians. They're even a cost of living issue, ironically, because when you haven't got any money to spare, you don't have any money to lose.
But with more and more scams emanating from social media, the biggest challenge might be bringing the tech giants to heel. Billionaire Elon Musk using his platform X to call the Australian government fascists for its crackdown on misinformation.
Elon Musk's had more positions on free speech than the Kama Sutra. He is the champion of free speech, and when he doesn't like it, he is, he's going to shut it all down.
Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese is heading overseas to join the leaders of the United States, India and Japan for the 4th Quad Summit next week. The White House announcing today it'll be hosted by Joe Biden in Delaware and focus on issues in the Indo-Pacific region, including security, natural disaster response and climate. She's just 15 years of age, but with lives on the line, she made a split-second decision to act. Emma Cuvea saving her schoolmates when she stopped a bus from crashing when the driver couldn't. Today, the ambulance service recognised her alongside many of its own heroes.
Slowly and safely, this school bus came to a stop. At a major intersection on the Gold Coast, it wasn't the driver who put it in park. It was a 15-year-old girl too young to drive.
The only thing that was going through my mind was probably, you have to stop the bus, you have to stop the bus.
The driver suffered a medical episode that day and 25 young lives on board needed someone to step up. Emma's split-second decision to act not only protected them, but undoubtedly other road users.
I could see that the bus was about to steer onto all the cars that were incoming, so just swerved it and kept it straight.
Today, the Queensland Ambulance Service awarded some of its finest for going above and beyond over many years of service, while also declaring Emma and 9-year-old Rosalie heroes too.
Young people making, adult level decisions and making a real difference to the outcomes for the people that were involved.
Rosalie lives with epilepsy and in April this year stood up to help her mum. She'd just collapsed, so her young daughter needed to act quickly.
I can't wake her up. Her chest isn't moving.
Okay, sweetheart. Do you know your neighbours?
Cool, calm, composed, ensuring help was on the way.
How old are you, Rosalie?
8.
You're 8. Oh, you're doing such a good job calling us.
How much do you love your mum?
10 billion.
It's relieving to know that she knew exactly what to do.
Ordinary people doing extraordinary things, rightfully recognised with those who wear the uniform, dedicating their lives to saving others. Jacob Chico, 9 News.
Despite the cost of living crisis, Queenslanders have lost more money on the pokies than ever before, according to new state government statistics. Mount Isa lost most per population, out of pocket $3.5 million in just a month, across a population of 18,000. The most per machine was in Logan, $23 million spent across just under 2,000 pokies. Donald Trump has ruled out facing off with Kamala Harris again and insists he won the first debate. But the Vice President's performance was clearly well received. Her campaign reeled in millions of donations after it aired.
We had a monumental victory over Comrade Kamala Harris in the presidential debate.
Not backing down from declaring he won, but backing out of another round.
Because we've done 2 debates and because they were successful, there will be no third debate.
Kamala Harris. Just 48 hours ago, Harris and Trump met for the very first time, the prosecutor taking on the convicted felon. Tonight, President 45 declaring one and done.
I'm not surprised that he wouldn't want to do another debate. I don't think there's much to be gained for him in another debate.
I believe we owe it to the voters to have another debate.
The 24 hours after the debate, a gold rush for the Harris campaign. Almost $70 million raised in the largest burst of funding for the Vice President since she entered the race. And there's been a surge in people registering to vote. Vote.gov revealing some 400,000 people clicked on Taylor Swift's link after she endorsed Harris. The pop star turning things political again as she accepted the top gong at the Video Music Awards.
The fact that this is a fan-voted award and you voted for this, I appreciate it so much. And if you are over 18, please register to vote for something else that's very important coming up. The 2024 presidential election.
This election and what is at stake could not be more important.
In the United States, Lauren Tomazi, 9 News.
Israel has bombed a United Nations school in central Gaza, killing 18 people, 6 of whom were aid workers. Around 12,000 people were sheltering there when it came under attack. The UN Secretary-General labelling it a dramatic violation of international humanitarian law. The Russian president has issued an ominous warning to the US and NATO. Vladimir Putin saying if Ukraine uses Western-made long-range missiles inside Russian territory, they'll be at war with Moscow. Hours later, Russia revoked the accreditation of 6 British diplomats, accusing them of spying. A view money can buy, the daring tourism experience hundreds of kilometres above the earth. Front lawns looted by a green-thumbed thief. How you can meet Queensland's Olympic and Paralympic heroes as we prepare to welcome them home. And at the end of sport, the shock link between sinus issues and mental health. Residents have been left scratching their heads after a thief was caught on CCTV pinching their plants. This video, posted on a Facebook community group, shows the culprit swiping 2 shrubs from a front lawn in Sydney on Sunday. Others in the area have reported similar thefts. We cheered them on from our lounges, and today sports fans had the chance to come face to face with their Olympic and Paralympic heroes at a meet and greet in Sydney.
Do you want to be an Olympian?
Oh, yes! Yes, I do. 100%.
What sport?
Rowing.
Rowing? There you go. See ya in 2032. What do you reckon? How much fun is this?
It's incredible. I'm speechless. I brought a tear to my eye.
And you can join me at Olympic Live, the Olympic Live site by the Brisbane sign at Southbank tomorrow morning, where we'll be welcoming home our Queensland Olympians and Paralympians. You can also watch our special coverage of the event live and free on 9 and 9 Now from 9:30. One small step for this man and one giant leap for space tourism. A starry-eyed tech billionaire has emerged from a SpaceX capsule and become the first civilian ever to spacewalk.
Making history 740 kilometres above Earth.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, Earth sure looks like a perfect world.
A view not many get. Tech billionaire Jared Isaacman, the first civilian to spacewalk.
Up, down, left and right are threes.
The 41-year-old financed this entire flight for an undisclosed sum. His venture into the vacuum was followed by SpaceX engineer Sarah Gillis.
All right, stepping into test matrix 1 for single-handed mobility.
Really cool to see one of our own out there. That's awesome.
The astronauts were tethered to the capsule and held bars, testing the newest spacewalk suit in 40 years, orbiting at speeds of 30,000 kilometres an hour.
Forward, back, and just in a bit of a roll.
Their preparation involved breathing pure oxygen to prevent getting the bends. Each had about 8 minutes in space, but it's critical time.
They needed to test all the equipment. So this was like a little successful glimpse of the future that we're building for ourselves.
There is a crew of 4 on board this SpaceX Polaris Dawn mission, which has gone deeper into space than any since the Apollo program that landed man on the moon.
We show the same nice job for everyone and everyone at SpaceX who made it possible.
Elon Musk wants to send people to Mars. NASA says this is a giant leap. In the United States, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Slashing the cost of pet care by up to 75%. Tonight, the new budget outlets discounting prices on everything from food to tick treatments and even pet insurance. That special cost of living report is coming up. Cemented to the back of a car, the bizarre lengths this protester went to avoid arrest. See how it ended next. International airlines slashing fares, your guide to nabbing the best deals. The do's and don'ts of at-home blood pressure tests. Plus the world-famous cathedral about to get its voice back. A photographer's lost part of his ear after being shot with a rubber bullet, and a woman's used concrete to attach herself to a car in Melbourne. Those were some of the scenes today as anti-war protesters demonstrated during the final day of the city's Weapons Expo. Victoria Police have labelled the group's conduct this week as appalling. International travel is back, with airfares slashed and bookings booming from the Sunshine State. And a new survey shows that half of us are cutting back on household spending and prioritising saving in order to afford a holiday.
With international flight prices dropping by up to 26%, travellers are making the most of the discounts.
San Francisco, Dubai, Paris, Rome and Auckland are seeing the biggest drops.
Flights from Brisbane to San Francisco are now under $2,000. Europe and Vancouver fares around $2,500, and Queenstown less than $1,000.
International outbound bookings from Brisbane were up 38%, and international inbound bookings were up more than 50% in the first half of 2024.
With flight capacity almost back to pre-pandemic levels, booking agents are hoping airlines will add new flights and routes to Brisbane to give travellers even more choice and cheaper fares.
But until that happens,
I think what we've got now is probably as good as it's going to get for the foreseeable future.
And Aussies are keen to take off, with new research of more than 1,000 people by consumer advocate Finder showing that 50% of us are slashing spending to save for an annual holiday.
The most popular thing we're doing is just cutting back on social activities. So 27% of us have said, OK, we're not going to go out quite as often. We're going to save that money for when we actually go away.
16% are selling unwanted possessions and 14% are working a second job to raise money for travel. But the best tip to stretch a dollar is to boost your frequent flyer miles.
A good strategy people can use is getting a credit card with bonus sign-up points, because that can give you a lot of points that can pay for your flights and make for a cheaper holiday without having to spend any additional money.
But beware of annual fees and high interest rates. Michelle Tapper, 9 News.
Well, more than 5 years after it was devastated by fire, Notre Dame finally has its voice back. 8 bells have been returned to the French cathedral ahead of its reopening in early December. It was hoped the 12th century structure would be restored before the Paris Olympics, but the scale and complexity of the project pushed out the completion date. Checking your blood pressure at home. Seniors reporter Bruce Page investigates the do's and don'ts of DIY monitoring. Queensland's starring role in the revival of an 80s cult classic. New budget outlets slashing the cost of pet care by up to 75%. And a Broadway blockbuster flies into Brisbane. We have your opening night preview. Trust in Australian supermarkets has been shattered this year, while Bunnings remains the people's favourite. Here's Friday Finance with Chris Kohler.
This time last year, Woolworths and Coles were the top two most trusted Australian brands, according to Roy Morgan Research. This year, they're down the bottom. These are Australia's least trusted brands. Optus still in the bottom spot, with Qantas and Meta close behind, but the big supermarkets are now nipping at their heels. And this is the other end of the scale, our most trusted brands. Bunnings at the top, followed by Aldi and Kmart. So still dominated by big retailers, but not the supermarkets anymore. Trust is important for customers, but profits are the main thing when it comes to shareholders, and it was a positive day on the market today. A rebound by the miners really making that possible. And the Australian dollar heads into the weekend buying 67 US cents and 60 euro cents. Finally, further afield, the European Central Bank cut interest rates last night, and the US Federal Reserve is expected to do the same thing next week. But the latest comments from the RBA show it's still a while away from doing that here.
Now checking the petrol price, and the average for unleaded in Brisbane $1.76, diesel $1.85. The average on the Gold Coast around the same, unleaded $1.75. RACQ is still saying delay filling up the tank if you can. Unleaded prices will keep coming down. Health experts are urging those at risk of high blood pressure to do their own home readings, especially if they suffer from a condition called white coat syndrome. As Seniors reporter Bruce Page finds, there are some do's and don'ts when it comes to DIY monitoring.
There are plenty of reasons to keep our blood pressure under control.
Hypertension is one of the major risk factors for heart attack, stroke, heart failure, kidney disease, eye disease and vascular disease.
I confess my blood pressure runs high, and that's why I have one of these home machines. But I've never checked if I'm using it the right way.
Professor Michael Stovasser from Greenslopes Private Hospital is an expert with the latest advice. He first recommends sitting comfortably with your arms on a table and the cuff at heart height.
You need about 1 centimetre above the elbow crease and the arrow in the middle of the elbow.
I expect my reading to be a little high today. I suffer from white coat syndrome, an important reason to monitor at home.
180 on 89.
White coat syndrome is the phenomenon by which blood pressure goes up when a patient goes to see a doctor.
Relaxing is the key.
Well, I often tell my patients, imagine you're watching a cow munching.
A little better, but I'll keep trying at home. The professor also advises not to drink coffee or have a cigarette for 60 minutes before you measure your blood pressure, and don't talk during the process. And taking a reading every day isn't necessary.
If you could do about a week's worth of readings every couple of months or so, that's plenty, particularly the week leading up to seeing your doctor.
These days, blood pressure machines range from basic devices to those with more features.
When you get up to the high-tech ones, 2 different patients, so you can have patient 1, patient 2.
And instead of manually recording readings, some let you send stored information to your doctor directly. If you have health insurance, a rebate is possible.
I always recommend to people that they ring their health insurer. Some of them will have a dollar amount that they can spend every 2 years, and others will get a percentage.
The real value of home monitoring, getting the treatment you may or may not need.
It's the best predictor of outcomes, and it may mean you avoid over-medication.
Bruce Page, 9 News.
Well, Brisbane is preparing to turn green with wickedness as the much-loved musical prepares for its opening night at QPAC tomorrow. The Broadway blockbuster follows the story of the 2 witches of Oz, long before Dorothy landed there in The Wizard of Oz. Night and matinee performances of the show will run until November the 24th. Thousands of online games feature destinations overseas, but a brand new game to drop in 2025 will feature our very own backyard. Carmen Sandiego has been a master thief since the 1980s, but players of the newest instalment of her game, developed by Game Loft Brisbane, will be able to explore Southbank Parklands, the Great Barrier Reef and more. It will debut first on Netflix Games. Well, next we're live to Cowboys country as Queenslanders put their faith in Todd Payten's men. The Butterflies are kicking in for the Lions ahead of their must-win clash in enemy territory. At the end of sport, the surprise link between chronic sinus infections and mental health conditions.
And a few light showers around this morning, but clear skies for the southeast this evening. But how's it shaping up for the first week of the school holidays? I'll have all those details of full weather and beach and surf report for you coming up soon.
Good evening. Queensland's NRL Premiership hopes hinge on the Cowboys, and it's lit a fire in the belly of two Maroons. Live now to Adam Jackson, who's in Townsville ahead of North Queensland's elimination final, and AJ, who looks ready to rip in?
Well, the entire squad, Dom, seems laser focused, and the Cowboys head into this match having only lost once in their past 10 weeks. Head coach Todd Payten is sensing a big game is in store for his co-captains, Reuben Cotter and Tom Deard, and we've seen them excel at origin level for Queensland in recent times, but they're about to embark on a brand new challenge, something they've never done before, captaining their club side into a final series for the very first time.
Both captains are dialed in. Certainly a look in their eye, you're right, fire in the belly. That added responsibility has put, I guess, a little bit of pressure on them to perform every week, and I think they both have done that. They're feeling more and more comfortable as the weeks go by about, asserting themselves within meetings, out in the field.
A more disrupted preparation for the Knights, undergoing a late backline reshuffle after losing star centre Bradnam Best to injury. But undoubtedly the decisive factor in this match will be the performance of Newcastle's star fullback in Callum Ponga. The Queenslander out to extinguish Queensland's last remaining hope for premiership success this season, Don, because for whoever loses here in Townsville tomorrow night, the season will end for either the Cowboys or Newcastle.
OK, thanks, AJ. You're right at home in North Queensland. We'll see you tomorrow night. The NRL finals kick off tonight, of course, with a heavyweight showdown between the Panthers and Roosters. Premiership winning captain Cameron Smith is in Sydney. Cam, does this match hinge on how Nathan Cleary fares in his return from a shoulder injury?
Yeah, g'day Dom. Well, he's a big in, isn't he, Nathan Cleary? He's only played the 10 games this season for the Panthers. In that time, he won 8 games and lost 2. So the spotlight is certainly going to be on him tonight in his return. He's been out for 3 weeks with that shoulder injury. Look, but I don't think they would risk him if he wasn't ready. Ivan Cleary's spoken in the lead up to this match that there were some hoops that he had to jump through to get back and be healthy and fit and ready to go. A lot of their gameplay does surround him, but look, I think this is going to be a cracking match. I think Penrith by a couple of points here at home tonight.
Thank you so much, Cam. Enjoy the game. The Bulldogs are confident their finals campaign won't be derailed by Josh Addokar's positive drug test, which has placed the winger's future at the club in serious doubt. A second test today confirming he had cocaine in his system when police pulled him over in Sydney a week ago. The winger has agreed to pay a $682 fine, and it's likely his licence will be suspended for 3 months, but he won't have a criminal record. Addokar still denies he knowingly took the drug. Storm coach Craig Bellamy is in awe of the transformation of Cameron Munster this year ahead of tomorrow's qualifying final against the Sharks at Amy Park. He is expecting his 5'8" to continue to evolve as he matures.
I think his confidence has grown. That's improved his game. He always had that ability and, reading the game, and, he's got the physical attribute to make good of that position. It's just, I think this year he's just a bit more confident in his ability.
Bellamy backing calls for an NRL grand final to be held at the MCG, but he says he has more chance of flying to the moon tomorrow than that happening. The Lions are rating Jack Payne as 100% ready for tomorrow night's semi-final against the Giants after the defender overcame a knee injury to be cleared to play, while Josh Dunkley is braced for a heated battle in the midfield in a bid to stop the impact of superstar GWS forwards Toby Green and Jesse Hogan.
It's going to be big, so, you steel yourself up for that and you're ready for it to come. I get butterflies thinking about it right now because I'm like, geez, we're so far away from the game.
Yes, it could be a sleepless night for some players, especially young gun Logan Morris, who's copped some flack from teammates after his doomed goal attempt against the Blues in their elimination showdown at the Gabba. Australia's men's tennis stars have continued their outstanding form, clean sweeping Czechia 3-0 in their Davis Cup tie. Thanasi Kokkinakis claimed a hard-fought win in the singles tie before Matt Ebden and Max Purcell made light work of the doubles fixture, placing the Aussies in a prime position to qualify for the finals. That's what we love to see, Lofty.
Nice one. Thank you, Dom. Researchers have discovered a pesky sinus infection that just won't go away, could be linked to your mental health. As Sophie Walsh explains, it could open up a new pathway for treatment of anxiety and depression.
American researchers studied more than 5,500 patients who were suffering chronic sinusitis. It's an infection that lasts for 12 weeks or longer, where the spaces inside the nose and head become inflamed, causing headaches and breathing issues. The study, published today, found people battling the condition are more than 4 times more likely to have anxiety and 2 times more likely to have depression. Researchers found it goes the other way too. People with anxiety or depression have an increased risk of developing a long-running sinus infection. It's hoped by finding the link between the 3 conditions, new treatment options could be found too.
In just 3 minutes, the new budget outlets slashing the cost of pet care by up to 75%, discounting prices on everything from food to tick treatments and pet insurance. That special cost of living report is just moments away. Right now, Luke is back with a check on the weather. Luke, have we got more cool temps on the way over the weekend?
We do, Lofty. Yeah, not a good night to forget my jacket, I've got to tell you. It's just 13 degrees, that feels like temp here at Main Beach right now. Courtesy of those strong southerlies tomorrow, below average temps over the weekend. But thankfully, it does warm up for the first week of the school holidays. And I'll have all those details, a full weather wrap, coming up next.
If a hardware store isn't the first place you'd think to buy your pet supplies, you'd be forgiven. But Queenslanders are now being urged to look further afield to avoid paying top dollar for everything from food and treatments to insurance.
We saw pet ownership spike during COVID, but now it's the cost of owning a pet that's rising.
It's certainly an extra expense that you have to factor in.
Now Compare the Market's uncovered some wacko price differences, including this popular dog treat, just $5 at Petstock compared to $24 from Coles.
5 times more expensive, one retailer versus another. That's really significant.
And the disparities don't end there. This bulk buy dry cat food costing $50 at Big W is almost double that at Woolworths. Clumping cat litter products range from just over 80 cents to as much as $2.60 per kilo, depending on where you shop. While puppy pads are 4 times cheaper at Kmart and Bunnings compared to a dedicated pet store, proving it can pay to look outside the box for other budget players.
We bulk buy food, so large bags. Some of the online stores, if you do a subscription service, you get an extra discount.
Don't just think, oh, supermarket trolley, yeah, let's load it in. There might be some really big savings over the year that you could add up just by stretching those eyes a little further.
When it comes to flea and worming, instead of buying an all-in-one treatment, purchasing them separately could actually save you around $9 if you use the products monthly.
It all does really add up.
Especially extra costs like pet insurance, with the least and most expensive quotes for a domestic short-hair cat having a $42 per month discrepancy, while the cheapest policy for a Staffordshire Bull Terrier was almost 3 times more affordable than the dearest, which could make over $1,000 difference in a year.
Often we set and forget when it comes to it, so there is a real potential to recoup some cost.
Kate Lamb, 9 News.
Well, weather expert Luke Bradnam is back now with the full forecast. Luke, how's the weather shaping up for the first week of the holidays?
We've cracked it for a good one, Lofty. The great news is certainly no heavy showers around for a majority of the state for the first week of the school holidays. Here in the southeast, slight chances of some light showers along the coastal fringe over the weekend, and we will continue to see these strong southerly winds over the weekend, but they'll drop off early next week. And then, as I mentioned earlier, thankfully, some warmer temps on the way for this time next week. But yeah, those strong winds, not good news for the boaties like the trawlers behind me down here at Main Beach over the weekend. A strong wind warning for tomorrow, and I think we'll see one for Sunday as well. But have a look what they did to the temperatures, those winds across the southeast today. Very deceiving, these temperatures. The feels like temp for most of us today hovering around 15 to 16 degrees. Officially, though, up to around 23 degrees for the city, 24 in the west for Ipswich. Down here on the Gold Coast, we tapped out at 21 degrees, and pretty similar for you on the Sunshine Coast today as well. Tomorrow's weather map shows some showers, potentially some storms for the southeast of the nation, but strong southerly winds pushing up the east coast of New South Wales and Queensland. It means we could see the odd light shower along the coastal fringe, particularly for us in southeast Queensland tomorrow. If you're heading interstate this weekend, but a possible late shower on the way for Sydney. Showers for Melbourne, partly cloudy for Adelaide, hot and sunny for Perth, and sunny and 35 degrees for Darwin tomorrow. Back home, a shower or two for Cairns, but mostly sunny for the Cowboys game tomorrow in Townsville. A shower or two for Mackay, and then sunshine through the interior for the Eyes, all right the way through to Roma. Through the Capricornia coast, a mostly sunny Saturday on the way for both Rocky and Gladstone, and then through the Fraser coast, partly cloudy, temps in the mid to low 20s. Here in the southeast, another windy day on the way. As I said, just a slight chance of the odd very light shower along the coastal fringe, but pretty much no chance for areas further west. Will be another cool day though. The sunny coast reaching 22, Ipswich getting up to 25. Here on the Gold Coast, a top of 21 again. And out on the bay, not too bad of a day on the bay. It's offshore, that won't be a lot of fun. We'll see seas getting up to around 2.5 metres offshore, but seas around a metre on the bay. For the city, a partly cloudy day on the way, heading for a top of 23 and dropping down to a pretty cool 13 degrees overnight. And then as we look ahead, as I said, it's all good news. Partly cloudy, 25 for Sunday, mostly sunny, 23 for Monday, partly cloudy, 24 for Tuesday, and a sunny Wednesday as northerly winds return, and we'll start to see some warmer temps creep in. For Ipswich, cool mornings continue for the week ahead, down in the single digits all the way through till next Friday. Partly cloudy tomorrow, 27 for Sunday, sunny and 25 for Monday, and then Thursday and Friday next week, both up over 30 degrees. Here on the Gold Coast, partly cloudy tomorrow and a possible very light shower on Sunday. And for you on the Sunshine Coast, a pretty similar outlook. Monday, just 22 degrees. Let's have a look at the beaches for tomorrow. Well, an ordinary morning down on the beach this morning. Just about blow the freckles off your face on the open beaches. A complete write-off up the sunny coast and down here on the Gold Coast. So it was the protected corners like down here at Currumbin, your only option. And you can see, despite the strong winds, the big swell yet to arrive. She was ripple riding down there this morning. But the good news for tomorrow, we will see an increase in the swell. Nothing massive, but sets up around a metre. But up on the sunny coast and down here on the Gold Coast, the points will be your only option. And take the wetty. The water temp has dropped a tad. She's down around 20 degrees at the moment. Family day down the beach. Again, the protected corners, Rainbow and Burleigh down here on the Gold Coast. Noosa up on the sunny coast. And offshore for the boaties, not a lot of fun tomorrow with those strong winds around yet again. When they drop off, Keely Rose charters from Rainbow Beach have been absolutely braining them. Great stuff. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be early next week before we're going to be able to get offshore and we'll see those winds drop off. But get your crab pots in the water if you're looking for some fun over the school holidays. Plenty of sand crabs in the Broadwater and around the reaches of Moreton Bay at the moment, Lofty. And a great looking weekend on the way for us to look forward to.
That looks like a good one all around. Good on you, Luke. And that is 9 News Queensland for this evening. Finals footy next. Thanks for your company. Good night.